Awesome. I'm here with Anthony DeSantis, and he is here to tell us about his STEM job. Hello, Anthony.
Hello, everyone. My name is Anthony DeSantis. I am an electrical engineer, and I work at SiriusXM Radio. I've worked here for the past almost 17 years, and my role here is currently I'm vice president of the streaming origin, which means I'm basically in charge of a software development group that develops some of the systems that get our audio from the folks that produce it out to the players so people can listen to it.
Awesome. All right. So, one question is what schooling did you do to get to your point where you are now?
I have a undergraduate degree from Princeton University in electrical engineering. And then I have a master's degree in electrical engineering as well from Columbia University. I can elaborate a little bit more. Electrical engineering, and I focused on computer engineering. I know a lot of folks who do electrical engineering end up working in software development and whatnot. So even though I have a degree in electrical engineering, most of my work is really software development type work and a lot less on the electrical engineering side.
Okay. How long did each of your degrees take?
It took 4 years for the undergrad degree and then 2 years for the master's degree. And I was working full time while I got the master's degree. So I was working full time at Lucent Technologies at the time, and but on nights and weekends take online classes throughout the year. And it took 2 years to finish the master's.
When did you first get interested in the STEM field?
That's a good question. I would say middle school. I have a strong interest in obviously computers and electronics and computer programming. But I also have a really big interest in math and science, especially physics as well. I think around eighth grade, I started getting really into science, both learning about astronomy. And then I think that year for Christmas, either eighth grade or ninth grade, my brother got me a couple of books about physics, which I started reading and was really into and got really excited me to learn more about just math, science, and physics. There was that kind of track, and then same sort of thing in middle school. I think in seventh grade, our family got a computer, and I kind of just really took to it. Was excited to learn about it. My older brother, at the time, he's about 11 years older than me, and he had taken some classes on computers and whatnot. And he said there was about a 1 week period where he knew more than me about computers, because once I kind of got into it, I really tried to figure it out and learn as much as I could. So I would say in middle school and early high school is when I really took interest in this stuff.
That's neat. So you said that you learned a lot from your brother. Was he a mentor?
Yeah, I think so. So my older brother is about 11 years older than me. Less because he's not really in a STEM field, but he's a very both smart and curious guy. And him being so much older than me, he always had taken more classes, he's always been a big reader, so he always knew more about things. So it was great to sort of have someone to kind of knew things and who I can ask questions to, and someone who can give me sort of reasonable and intelligent and interesting answers to that would help prod me on to go try and learn more on my own. He taught me a lot about history and economics and even science as well. So yeah, I think so. He was someone who was really important in getting me excited about learning more.
Have you had any other mentors during different steps of your career?
Yeah, I think so. Definitely. So in my first job, I would say I had two. My first boss, she was actually a really good mentor. I worked for her as a summer intern 1 year, and then I ended up working for her after graduation as well. And I only worked for her for about 2 years, but she was really helpful. She had been in the software development industry for a long time, and she was very, very helpful. And then there was another person on the team someone who had been a manager in the past, but had gone back and was doing more actual engineering work at the time. And he gave me a lot of insight too on how to handle your career, what kind of projects to look at, what to work on, and that sort of thing. So yeah, great working for, and I worked for Lucent, which was a very big company at the time. There were a lot of very experienced people there that I could rely on to provide some guidance.
What was your path to your current position?
Yep. Okay. So I worked there for about 8 years and was getting a little tired of it, but not too bad. There's always ups and downs and lulls. But someone I had previously worked with was working at SiriusXM, and he said that their team was looking for more software developers, and we had a good working relationship at the past job, and he suggested, "Hey, are you interested in this?" So it was mostly through a connection through someone I had worked with in the past and had a good relationship. And so we set up the interview, and it wasn't directly with him. He was sort of adjacent to the team I was working on, but I interviewed with that team. As it went well, they offered me a job, and I started working there in 2007.
Did you choose the position at SiriusXM more because you were tired of your old job, or was there like a different motive?
I had been doing some of the same thing for the past year or two at the other job, and I kind of wanted to do something different. Honestly, part of it too is I wanted to work for something. I mean, SiriusXM is a pretty big company, but they're much smaller than the other one. I kind of want to work for a slightly smaller company where I think I would have had more direct impact on how the company does. But yeah, and then also just to have interesting. I mean, just to get a change of pace. I mean, I've been here now. I haven't done that in a while because I've worked on a bunch of different things here. But yeah, it was mostly to get a change of pace and maybe work somewhere a little bit smaller.
Okay. So, what would your typical day at work be like?
I can answer that two ways, right? I'm a little bit more of a manager now than an actual doing engineering work. So do you want to know more about the days as an engineer or the days as a manager? Because they're a little bit different.
We can do both.
You can do both, sure.
Yeah.
So days as an engineer or software developer, mostly a typical day would be you come in, probably check messages, emails, and Slack for what was going on. Try and figure out where you left everything off the day before and start to try and get your head around that, and you can kind of just dive into the work. A lot of the software development work, there's kind of two aspects to it I always like to think of when you're doing software development. There's sort of your head down, you're looking at computer code and you're bugging and testing and thinking. But then the other part is the collaboration and working with other people, because the hardest part of these things, the things where most of the issues and bugs and problems come up, are interfaces between different team members, different teams, different systems, and whatnot. In addition to the heads down work, there's a lot of really kind of informal sort of chats with your other members of the team or other or members of other teams that you're interfacing with, where you would just sort of, hey, how do you want me to send you this data, or what are you expecting here, or what is this design? How do you think this should be designed? And a lot of that was really informal sort of chats, and a lot of just drawing things really quickly and dirty on a whiteboard, and then sort of just talking through things. There's a lot of just informal drawings, talking, and chats with other folks. Other than that, the other part of it would be, some more formal meetings where maybe you would review someone's code or review a design of how something was working. So as a individual contributor, right, there might be one or two types of meetings a day, but most of the rest of the day was actually working on your code or these smaller informal things. As a manager, it kind of goes the other way. I'm kind of tied up in meetings a lot more. Kind of sometimes long for the days where I had some time to actually do something more tangible. So as a manager, your main job is to try and make sure that the members of your team are not blocked or not waiting on something that is causing them problems. If they need a piece of information from someone else, you can help them track down that information, or set up a meeting with the team who can provide that information. So most of your day is spent in meetings and facilitating issues, trying to problem solve bigger issues to let the actual engineers be able to continue with their work.
Thank you. That's very insightful how everyone does a piece of the puzzle to make it all fit together.
Yeah, this is the engineering is a very big teamwork thing. Like, there's very little that gets done by one person. So the hard part is the interactions with other people. The, the actual, designing circuits and code, at least in my mind, is the easy part. It's the human interactions that's harder.
Yeah. Do you have any current career aspirations?
um, Retirement, but
That is a popular answer.
I feel like that's a little far away from me right now, considering the ages of my children. In a way, I recently promoted, so I'm kind of enjoying the position I'm in right now. I think my career aspirations is to do something similar to what I'm doing now. Maybe have a little bit more influence of over the how the bigger systems are designed and fit together. One thing in at least in engineering for companies that provide services like we do, that are available on the internet, sort of things, are everything moves very fast. So I got to be honest, what my plans and aspirations were a year ago are honestly very different than they are today, just because of things changing within the company, things changing within the industry and whatnot. It's pretty fast moving. I don't even know what I think I'll want a year from now, to be honest. But something like that, something like being able to influence the way the systems are designed a little bit more.
Yeah, having a greater impact on the company.
Yeah, I think so.
A big question, especially with COVID-19, is has the pandemic impacted your job?
Very much so. Yes. Big. Before the pandemic, I was going to the office pretty much every day. And since the pandemic, I work from home probably about 90% of the time right now. Our job is mostly either running things on a computer and looking at what comes out, or it is writing documents, or reviewing documents, or it is meeting with other people. The teams I work with, and this is kind of especially in the software development in tech industry, the teams are very remote and spread out all over the country and the world nowadays. So even when you're meeting with people, you're probably doing it remotely, even if there are people on your same team. So all that to say is almost everything we're doing is just sitting in front of a computer. That was able to translate very well to working from home. And then now that COVID is over or things have changed, there's been little reason to actually go back to the office because you're mostly doing the same thing. You're sitting in front of a computer, talking to the same people, working on the same things. So this job is very easy to do remotely. And since COVID, both me, my managers, people on my teams, and other teams have moved to mostly working exclusively remotely.
Have you missed going into the office at all?
It goes in waves. For a while there, I was eager to go back to the office, and I was happy to stay home all the time. Once in a while, I look forward to going in. In fact, I was in the office yesterday, so it still happens. I think the pace where I'm at now, where you go to the office maybe one day every 2 or 3 weeks, kind of scratches the itch of wanting to go to the office. But in general, no, I prefer being at home. It's more flexible. You get the kids off the school bus. I can take care of things at home, but I can still get just as much work done. In fact, once we got used to it, I'm more productive at home than I am in the office. In the office, it's much more of I'm going there to meet with people, be a little bit social and whatnot, and what it's less to actually get real work done.
Okay, so one of the final questions is previously to the pandemic or currently now, did you have to travel at all for work?
Travel sometimes. My company has offices in New York and Washington, D.C. So about once every 2 or 3 months before the pandemic, I would have to go to one of those two places for a day, sometimes 2 days. Luckily, where we live, those are relatively short train rides away, so they weren't even overnight. In previous jobs, I did have to travel a bit more. In the job at Lucent, we had a customer who was in Europe, and I had to spend 6 weeks in Germany at one point. um, and, working at the customer site because there was some issues and we had to work closely with them. Since COVID, it's probably been less of the travel. I've been to the New York office maybe once, and I haven't been back to the DC office, so it definitely has quieted down.
All right. And one last question. What is one piece of advice would you given to your younger self when you first got into the workforce?
Engineering advice I'd give, and this is so hard to do sometimes when you're under pressure or deadlines to get things done, is make an effort to try and do things right the first time. A lot of times when you're rushing or you have a deadline and you're working on something, there's usually an easy way to do it or a way that like, okay, it'll get the job done, but it's probably going to break in 2 days or it's going to break when such and such happens. And I mean, some of them, it's a really a tough skill to learn like, when you can get away with that and when you can't. But it almost always bites you in the butt when you do that sort of thing. So it's almost better to take the time to do it right the first time. And of course, you're going to sometimes get pushback from managers or whatnot because, hey, we need to get this done by Friday. If you want to do it the right way, it's going to take an extra 2 weeks. And it's not always going to work out. And sometimes you're going to be told you have to do it that way. But I would urge folks to try and make sure, even if that sort of happens, you sort of negotiate. You tell the manager, okay, fine, I'll do that, but we have to allocate an extra week next, in a month to go back and fix this and do this the right way. Because so often you do things the expedient way at the beginning, and then you never go back and fix it, and then you forget about it, and then a year later it causes an issue, and that's when your brain's completely moved on and you don't know how to fix it at that point. So try and do things the right way right from the start. If I had known that earlier on, I think I'd be much happier.
Thank you. That's a good piece of advice.
Yeah,
All
it's
right.
tough. It definitely is tough when there's deadlines and pressure, but try and at least do the best you can.
Yeah, do the best you can to do it right the first time.
Yep, even if it
All
takes
right.
more time.
Well, thank you so much for joining us for this interview.
Happy to join. I'm happy to do this sort of thing. I hope it's helpful to someone.
It surely will be.